Welcome to the theater. Take a seat, grab some popcorn, and get ready for another horror movie double bill. This is Friday Night Fratricide.
It's Friday night, and you know what that means. It's time for another spooky double bill with your hosts, the Happy Brothers. I am Fraser.
And I am Ewan.
And we're here with another episode of Friday Night Fratricide. How exciting.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, I know.
It's great.
I keep saying these things. I'm like, how exciting. It sounds very sarcastic, but I am genuinely excited to be doing this.
Yeah, it's
very
great.
fun. Yes, this week's theme is technology. We've brought old and new together.
Yeah.
20 years difference between the two films.
Mm-hmm.
Very different tonally.
They are very different films.
Very, very different.
They don't... I think your pick, Possessor, definitely fits the theme of technology a lot better than mine does. I mean, we kind of... It's not... If my choice, Ringu, the original from 1998, as much as it does, the plot relies on technology with the cursed videotape. It's not, the theme of technology isn't really prevalent throughout it. It's kind of just like a standard ghost story. Because I'd never seen it before. I didn't know what it was like. No, it's kind of fits the theme.
I agree.
But
it
just
comes under technology.
Doesn't necessarily...
The whole point of these episodes and the themes that we have is just to kind of have a loose connection and to just pick something that we can talk about. So it's not, it doesn't need to be all futuristic technology, blah, blah. It can be very loosely related to the theme, and that's fine. We make the rules. We're the hosts. We can do whatever we like.
We are the hosts. This is our podcast. We're going to talk about whatever we damn well please.
Yes. But like,
horror movies, because it's a horror movie podcast. So, we still need to fit the format, I guess.
Yes, we do. The format of two spooky movies. So, will we kick off with our first spooky movie?
I think we will.
Ringu, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, I'll take the lead with Ringu. So, I mean, lots of people probably know a lot of the plot of Ringu. I mean, I feel like I knew a lot of where the plot was... Well, maybe kind of in the first half, at least, of where the plot was going, because it's very well known in pop culture.
Sorry, here's a question. Did you watch the remake? Have you seen the remake?
I haven't seen the remake.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Because I think a lot of people will probably have seen the remake.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, actually. It's not bad as far as American remakes of foreign films go.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a lot of people will have seen the remake and not have seen the original, or have seen the remake first. Yeah. So I was curious where you were coming into it, but... You've not seen either.
I've not seen either. Yeah. I've not seen any of them. It's just, so yeah, going into this one, well, I say blind. Like I'm saying, it's a very famous film.
Oh yeah.
The premise is very well known. The whole, like the character of Sadako, climbing out the well, coming out the TV. That's like, everyone knows it. So like you go into the film, no matter whether you've seen it or not before, you know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know the plot. So it's not, I probably don't need to spell all of it out to you, but you've got the main character, Reiko Asakawa, who's a reporter investigating the mysterious death of her niece, Tomoko, who we see right at the very beginning of the film. She talks about this haunted videotape that she watched with her friends a week ago, and then was told that she was going to die within a week, and then suddenly the TV turns itself on, and then she dies. And then that kicks off the whole plot of.
I love the visuals of that scene. It's like this sort of deep fried visual.
Yeah,
of
it
her
just like
face when she
goes negative and she screams and I really like that. I really like it. It's like
cheesy, but it's fun.
I liked a lot of that. The visuals of this film, they weren't, they didn't have loads of visual effects. They didn't have loads of like CGI or anything. It was very much like just. The whole screen went a bit blurry, or the whole screen went a different color at once, and it was like very, very basic, but it worked kind of well. Mm-hmm. I always like that in a film where they don't try and put in a bunch of effects where there don't need to be a bunch of effects. That's something that always bothers me in horror films, is if they're like, we need to show the monster, and then like the monster doesn't look good. It's like, you could have just not shown the monster, and then you would have had the same effect.
Yeah,
I think Ring's a good example of how they don't show much. They build up a lot of atmosphere. They tell the story really, really well. It's this kind of like classic ghost story where it's like the girl Sadako,
the cursed videotape,
supposedly haunts this videotape, and yeah.
What's funny, it almost ties into what we were talking about last week with the fog, the sort of campfire story-esque theme, where it's, all these teenagers, they watch the videotape and then, they tell each other they're going to die in a week, and then it comes true.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I like that atmosphere in a horror where it's all these sort of urban legendy.
Yeah, I really like that.
But not the film Urban Legend.
Not the film
Urban
Legend. No. I have not seen the film Urban Legend, but no. I was thinking kind of like a story that gets retold a lot is like Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
And that whole thing of like, you say it in the mirror. And obviously that was kind of carried over into like Candyman.
Yeah. That's true.
Which is another one that I think, another film that really has that theme of like building on the urban legends, and you tell it like a kind of classic ghost story, and it works really well. But yeah, so Asakawa's out. She's investigating the videotape. She manages to track down where her niece and her friends had gone to this like cabin out in the woods, and she manages to find the videotape, and then she watches it, and then she's going to die in 7 days. So now she needs to break the curse within 7 days, and she enlists the help of her ex-husband, who is psychic. Her ex-husband Ryuji,
played by Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah,
who is phenomenal.
He's great. He's really good in this.
Man, might I add.
Yeah, he's really good. Like I didn't really recognize any of the actors that were in this, to be honest.
Do you not know him?
I don't think so.
He's actually gained quite a bit of fame in the West as well. He was in Sunshine. He's in the new John Wick. He was in The Last Samurai, 47 Ronin.
There you go.
He's in I know him personally from Sunshine because that's one of my favorite films of all time.
You do love Sunshine,
and he's amazing in it.
He was in Avengers Endgame.
He is at the start of Avengers Endgame. You know when Hawkeye is chasing down all the the gangs and stuff in Japan. Yeah,
he was also in Minions.
But I
2015 apparently.
Didn't know that, but
there you
go.
Okay, yeah, cool. So, there you go. He has.
He genuinely has.
He has been in a lot of films that I have seen. So there you go. Apologies, Mr. Sanada, for me not recognizing you. But yeah. So and then he gets brought in. He's a great character. He's got like the two. It's a really good dynamic that we don't see an awful lot in films. Is like a divorced couple having to work together. We get.
I didn't turn my ringer off.
You've got 7 days to live.
Oh no.
Yeah, you get a lot of like, two characters meet each other, they don't really like each other, but then they fall in love over the course of the film, and it's like totally generic. I really want to see more kind of unusual combinations of characters, and a divorced couple is that. You don't see that an awful lot. So the idea of like they're a divorced couple just working together.
Yeah,
because they are, and they're like kind of pals, I guess. Still,
yeah. I mean, they're still friendly, and they've got the son together as well, Yuichi. And they're sort of. I don't want to. You're taking the plot, so that's fine. I don't want to go too far, jump too far ahead. But I like how it progresses with the son as well.
Yeah,
and the sort of sense of urgency between them to try and solve the case and break the curse and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, I really like how it's not, when they go and stay in the hotel later on, they're not staying in the same bed. They don't have this big romantic scene where they reconcile over their shared fates. It's kind of refreshing to see just the two of them.
It's nice they don't have
being
that,
friends, I guess.
Put in. So they're kind of traveling around to try and figure out, they're sort of tracking down all this information to try and figure out what happened. They gradually figure out more and more, but during the process they need to take their son to stay somewhere, so they take her to Asakawa's I'm assuming it's Asakawa's father.
His father, yeah.
Her
father, sorry.
Her father, yeah, so the boy's grandpa. And then while staying there, she wakes up in the middle of the night and finds that he has also watched the videotape.
That scene,
When, like,
genuinely,
you hear it and she goes through
that
and-
scene scares me more than the rest of the film.
Yeah.
There's something so like terrifying about the idea of like her being cursed, and then like opening the door to realize that her son is being cursed as well.
Yeah.
There's just that shot where she opens the sliding door and he's sitting in front of the TV. Oh, I hate
It's
it.
scary.
It's so scary. Like on a like really base level.
Yeah.
The idea of your child being haunted and knowing exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, it's yeah.
Yeah, that like
really scares me.
This is it's a scary film, and I really like that about it because it has, as far as I can think at least, 0 jump scares. I don't necessarily hate any film that includes a jump scare, but like it bothers me when people talk about films as being like, oh, it's really, really scary and it's just constant cheap jump scares. Like Sinister.
The worst offender for that.
Yeah.
Everyone states it as like the scariest film ever made, and they did like the tests where people put their Apple Watches on and monitored their heartbeat, and it was scientifically proven to be the scariest movie ever. But it's not. It's just filled with jump scares.
Yeah.
So you're constantly
your
on the
heart
edge of
rate's
your
just
seat.
constantly going up.
It doesn't make a scary film.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, jump scares are great in moderation.
When they're done well, if they're not too cheap, if they're, you know.
Yeah.
But this basically has none, and it still manages to be really effective, and I think that's good. People always talk about that, like, you need to, like, horror movies aren't scary anymore, there's no atmosphere, and it's like, okay, yeah, some films don't have as much atmosphere as others do. The trend of jump scares is something that's happened more recently, but like, this is a film that's not old, it's what, 25 years old?
Yeah, 98.
Excuse me, about as old as I am. And it's like, you know, it's great. It's spooky, but it's not like cheap.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially with older films as well. Like, well, I say older, it's not that old, but with older films, it's as a general comment, people kind of say that they lose their scare just because of their product of their time. They're not as scary. But like rewatching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that gave me frights.
Yeah.
Rewatching The Exorcist I do that every couple of years. That film is
scary.
genuinely
Exorcist is
scary.
Yeah.
It holds up as being, 40 years old now? 50 almost?
Yeah, I guess it will be 40 this year, 73. No, it'll be 50,
It'll be 50
this year, 73.
Like, it is genuinely scary.
Yeah.
So when these sort of older films, and like I'm kind of classifying Ringu in this because of the way it's shot, it's not quite tipped into that like quote unquote modern horror genre quite yet. Films like that can still scare you just with the atmosphere and just with the storytelling is always appreciate it.
Yeah.
Always appreciate it.
So yeah, they continue on. They go off to this island to try and investigate what happened there with the tape, where the tape came from, and then eventually trying to figure out who Sadako was. They figure out that she's the kind of spirit trapped within this tape, or the spirit that's coming out from there. And then they reveal her story. So she was the daughter of a psychic who attempted to prove that she was psychic and was dismissed by her community and threatened as a witch. People hated her because she was at first they thought she was a fraud, and then Sadako killed one of them with her mind, and then they started accusing her mother of being a witch and drove her to suicide, at which point Sadako was murdered by her father and chucked down a well.
The doctor who was trying to sort of monitor them and prove their powers, their ESP.
Yeah.
Was it EMS? I'm like, no, that's the ambulance service, isn't it? ESP, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, really.
It is.
But do you think that she was evil? Like, do you believe that people are inherently evil?
Wow, that's
a very loaded question.
Deep question for a Wednesday evening.
I know, but like, what do you mean Wednesday? It's Friday night.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a Friday night. It's Friday night.
Don't give away our secrets while we record this. But like, yeah, when you watch films like this and you see like the likes of Sadako, who's born with like psychic powers, and it does seem to be just inherently evil.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that? Do you believe that there are people who are
in the real world? No.
No,
I don't believe that anyone is inherently evil. I try not to. I can be quite a cynical person sometimes, but I don't think anyone is like entirely evil. Okay. I think everyone has a bit of. They have the capability of being good, at least, even if they don't choose to be.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a horror movie. Of course, absolute evil
I
exists in a horror movie. You know, that's what the premise of the majority of horror films is that evil exists in one form or another.
But then, like, an aspect of watching horror is that you find a sort of sense of realism in it and believability. Yeah. So it's, I always find it curious when I'm watching films like this, where there is like a spirit that is, or a person or whoever who is just evil. And I'm like, is that believable? I think it is.
I suppose.
I think it is.
It's believable. I like to think that no one is entirely evil, but I guess I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
That's fine. Just a loaded question for a Friday night.
For a Friday night. So yeah, they're continuing on. They're gradually figuring out more and more. They find this out because they find the well that Sadako was chucked down. Yeah. At which point,
underneath the cabin,
the very same cabin from the beginning of the film. And then they have this flashback, and they climb down to kind of get some of the water out to try and find the body, hoping that that'll put the spirit at rest and that'll break the curse. And then they find she goes down in the water, and there's the hair in the water kind of up on her hands, and then she pulls the body out, and then she kind of like goes to pull the hair apart, but it like sort of like peels away the skin and you just get the slimy skull. It's all gooey. I like that. I like a gooey horror film. I like a good bit of ooze in a horror film.
It is. It's like that horror movie
ooze. You got a bit of goop in a horror film. You need that. And then they're kind of like, okay, well, that's great. That's it. And then Asakawa doesn't die.
Yeah.
It's building up to the 7-day mark. She's like, oh, it's like 7:10, I'm gonna die. And then it gets to like 7:15 and she's fine.
Yeah.
So then they head home, and then the next morning her ex-husband is kicking about and the TV turns on.
He's like, uh-oh.
And he suddenly realizes what's happening, and then this is when we get the really famous scene that's probably, I mean, like, I'm guessing, having not seen the sequels or the remakes or the sequels of the remakes, that they do this a lot. Like
what do you mean?
Like the ghost coming out of the TV gets redone many times. Because this is like...
Do you mean redone as in the same film?
Not necessarily in the... Well, it could happen like more than once in a film, but I'm thinking like they do it again in the remake, presumably. Yeah. But I'm guessing in like the later Ring films, in like Ring 2 or whatever, they probably do it again.
I haven't seen any, I will admit, so I don't know.
I would guess.
In the remake, it only happens once in the remake.
Okay.
So it's the same. It follows pretty much the same plot.
Fair enough. Okay, feel free to correct me, any of our listeners, if I'm wrong. But I'm assuming this is, because this is like such an iconic thing. The only thing that I've seen from any of it was from, is it Rings? Was like the one that was like 2017 or something? One of the really recent ones. And they do it again with like a flat screen TV. But the whole thing is that like it gets knocked over and it's like on the ground, and she like kind of pulls up out of it. Like she like sort of lifts it off the ground as she's climbing out or something.
I don't know if I've seen it or not. Yeah. Maybe you have.
I saw a clip of, kind of half saw a clip of it online. But yeah, so Sadako climbs out of the TV, and it's this very iconic scene.
Yeah.
One of horror's 101 scariest moments of all time, according to Shudder. But
I mean, it absolutely is.
Absolutely.
It's iconic.
It is. It's great. And you know the main reason that I find it really unsettling?
You have a CRT in your living room.
No, I don't. Part of the reason that I found it unsettling is like the way that she moves. Is that like clearly I don't know if she's like moved backwards and then they've reversed it.
I think
that's what they do. So it's this kind of disjointed, like weird movement that is really creepy and effective and works really well. But it's her fingernails.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing with they're down in the well and they see these like scratch marks. She was like trying to climb out of the well because she hadn't died right away. She was still alive. She was trying to claw her way out and she was trapped down there. And then when she comes out of the TV, you see like the fingernails against she's like missing all of her fingernails and presses her fingers against the hardwood floor and it like bends her fingers. Oh, it's so gross. I loved it. It was like it worked really well. It like unsettled me and squeaked me out in like such a great way.
Just on the topic of like disjointed movements and stuff, you've not seen Pulse, have you?
No, I haven't. That's I think I have seen the scene that I'm thinking of.
Korean?
I'm not sure.
But
I think
definitely Asian horror.
I think I have seen the scene, like they did that with the ghosts where was it like they sped up, they like moved really slow and then sped it up, or was it they moved it backwards?
Don't know how they did it, but it is without a doubt the most scared I've ever been watching a horror film.
Yeah.
It is there's something so unsettling about it. Like it does, I think it came out the following year or the year after The Ring. I could be wrong, but around the same time, but I think The Ring did it first. And you see it, you watch Sadako coming out and you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of creepy. Imagine that, but like times 100.
Yeah.
It's so unsettling, and I don't even know how to describe it. There's not like the feeling that you get watching it is just pure unease. You just can't. I don't know. You just want to look away.
Yeah.
Like there's films and like you got things like gore that make you look away. You're like, that's gross. I'm gonna look away. This is like you can't keep watching it. It's like I physically feel unable. I feel ill watching this. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Like that Uncanny Valley where it's like they're moving.
It's almost like Uncanny Valley.
They're moving in a human way, but like not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of describing it. Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it.
Yeah, I love when they do that. This is something that I've really enjoyed. I've been watching Twin Peaks recently. And that's something that they do. There's like the really famous scene in Twin Peaks where he has like kind of the dream sequence. He's in the weird room with like the stripy carpet and there's the wee guy in the suit that kind of, he talks. He has a really weird way of speaking and it's because he recorded the lines, then played them back, and then rehearsed saying the lines backwards, said the lines backwards, and then they reversed it again. So he's you understand it because he's speaking forwards, like you can hear the words, but like the way he's talking is so weird. They have to put subtitles because you can like barely understand it, but like it is English and you can hear the words, but they're like wrong. It's creepy.
Okay.
And then he does a dance and like they do the same thing where like he's like it's reversed. He's like moving backwards and then they reverse it, so he's like moving forwards but weirdly, and it's
just a creepy little jig.
It is. It's very creepy to the jazz music, and so I love it when people do that. But it's like good, this is like a it's like such a simple practical effect. It's just this weird video effect, and it's so much better than trying to do something weird with like CGI to make it creepy, you know.
Well, prepare yourself for Pulse because that's definitely going to be coming soon. Yeah, and one of my picks because I love that film.
Okay, excited.
It was going to be this week.
Did you almost pick it for technology?
But then I thought Ringo's quite close.
Yeah,
don't want to sort of quite similar films.
Fair enough.
So we'll save it for another time.
Yeah,
just prepare yourself.
Yeah. So I mean that's basically the end of the film. There's one very dramatic scene left when Asakawa realizes that her ex-husband has died and it's just her. So why was the curse lifted for her and not for anybody else? And she has the realization that the only thing that she did that he didn't do is make a copy of the tape and show it to somebody else.
Yep.
So now she knows the only way that she can save her son's life is to make another copy of the tape and show it to someone else. And she leaves while on the phone with her dad saying, I need you to do something for me. And there's this, you don't see it because the film ends, but this implication that she's basically trading her dad's life for her son's, by showing him the tape, passing the curse on to him, and then potentially getting him to pass the curse on to somebody else, and so on and so forth, and it never ends. It keeps going.
And thus the ring cycle continues.
And then, there were various sequels to this, because I didn't realize there was a sequel called Spiral.
So many. Yes.
Which
Spiral was the first one.
Was released at the same time. Or like very, very closely back to back. I don't know if it was like the same day or whatever, but it was released very, very closely. And then they kind of retconned that a couple of years later.
Everyone hated it.
Everyone hated the sequel. Yeah. So they did a new sequel of Ring 2.
Yep.
And then there was Ring 0 as well, which I don't know how much later that was, kind of mid-2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Yeah. Because I think, Ring 2 was like 2002, maybe?
Yeah, I think that was...
Or something, and then it was like shortly after that.
Later,
okay.
Yeah.
And then, there's the remake as well. And then there was a sequel to the remake.
Yes.
And there was also Rings, which was... which, like I'm saying, I think it was maybe 2017.
Yeah, it was more recent.
Plus there was one... There was like Sadako versus...
Oh, there's loads of Japanese
like
sequels.
A bunch of Japanese sequels that like...
they just get more and more ridiculous.
They just keep going.
There's like Sadako 3D.
Yeah.
Sadako versus the boy from The Grudge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird sequels. I don't know if we'll watch any of them.
Is it offensive to say that the Japanese love sequels? Is that like... I'm thinking of like Godzilla. There were like 100 Godzilla films.
I mean...
and he was facing off against everybody under the sun.
It is factual.
It was against Mechagodzilla. It was against King Kong. It was
Gojira Extended Universe.
Yeah, that's true. There was a whole big extended universe.
Same with Ring. The Ring Extended Universe.
The Ring universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's The Ring. I really enjoyed it.
Ring. Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I messaged you the other night, and you were like, "Yeah, I loved it. I was really impressed by it." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know. I didn't expect you to."
You didn't expect me to like because you don't like it, or just because you didn't think I would like it?
No, like I like it. I just the vibe I got from your messaging was that you loved it, and I was like, okay.
It's not my favorite or highest rated film that we've watched so far.
No,
it didn't.
Six
out of the 6 that we reviewed so far, it's not as good as The Fog.
Yeah,
but no, I really enjoyed it. I would give it a 4.
4? Okay.
I think it's a really solid premise. I mean, it's based on a book, and there was a TV film adaptation before this one, I believe. I could be wrong. It was like a few years earlier.
Possibly.
But like it's a great premise. I mean, you don't need me to tell you how iconic it is, considering it's been parodied and remade and everything. Countless sequels, so many times. It's like, it's shot really well. I really enjoy the cinematography. The acting's really great in it. Like, it's really well paced, and it stays interesting and engaging right the way through. The soundtrack was surprisingly good. I wasn't expecting anything special from the soundtrack, but I really enjoyed it. Gave it a 4 stars out of 5.
4 star. Okay.
Like, there wasn't an awful lot in it that, like, absolutely blew me away. Like, this was so incredible. I need to show this to everyone immediately. But, like, it was really solidly made. I don't really have any criticism for it either.
Okay. Fair enough. I would disagree with you about the acting.
Okay.
Is probably the only part I would disagree with you there. I think Hiroyuki Sanada, who plays Ryuji, the dad, ex-husband, whoever, I think he's great throughout. Nanako Matsushima, who plays Riko, I didn't vibe with her as much.
No.
I thought she was fine, but I thought there was points where I was kind of like, I just kind of didn't, I don't know. And a few of the supporting actors as well, I kind of, I don't know. Maybe the problem with foreign films, right, is that I reckon a lot of things are lost in translation.
Oh, definitely.
I think there is an aspect of that, so I don't want to be too critical. I feel that's unfair because you are watching it with subtitles, and there's probably a lot of like inflections and emotions and stuff that aren't properly conveyed. So I don't want to be too harsh, but there were points where I was like, this isn't amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, plot-wise and pacing-wise, I think it's really well done. So I agree with you there. My biggest criticism with it is that I don't find it that scary.
Okay.
Overall.
Yeah.
I think there are moments that are creepy. The scene with Yuichi when he watches the film for the first time, the son, I think that's really like impactful and really like memorable. Mm-hmm. And obviously the scene at the end with Sadako crawling out the TV is iconic for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think it does lack sort of scares throughout the film.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe
I'm being too critical here.
I would agree with you. I think a lot of it comes from like some of the stuff conceptually, like when you think about it, is scary. But like at the time when you're watching the film, there's not an awful lot that's like keeping you on the edge of your seat.
That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what I like in a horror film.
Fair enough.
I like scares.
I'm a big coward. So like a horror film that's not like actively scaring me a lot when I'm watching it, but I find it a bit unsettling, or I find it a bit creepy, or I find that it's like exploring these like unsettling themes that a lot of other films aren't going to do. I can really appreciate that without feeling the need to like have scares constantly. Because I don't like it because it scares me too much, because I'm a little wuss.
But that's fine. Different tastes gives more lively discussion.
Yeah,
so that's fine. But yeah, I wasn't too far behind you. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Rewatching it again, I watched it semi-recently for the first time, like within the last few months. So it was still pretty fresh. And watching it again, I was kind of like, it is good. It is enjoyable. Definitely recommend it. But there are bits kind of lacking. So, yeah. There we go.
It's still a good solid
score.
Good solid score.
So that's Ringu.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our intermission. Go and get your little snacks. Yep. Go to the lobby.
Yep.
We need to have like a little...
Get a little look at the lobby jingle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, rejoin us for the second half of our double bill.
Yeah.
Which will start right now because we have no ad placement, so there's nothing to go on a break.
Also, it's a podcast. You can pause us at any point.
That's
true. You don't need us to give you a break.
That's true.
Looking for a break as well as the ability to pause. That's just greedy. I mean, come on.
I'm just waiting for that when we finally do get like some sort of advertisement and I can actually do it because it's going to be really fun to have that little break in the middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. Right. Second half of our double bill. My pick for this week was Possessor 2020, directed by Brandon Cronenberg. The, of course, notable son of notable David Cronenberg. This is a weird one.
It's a very weird film.
I'm curious to see what you think.
Yeah. I'll try and keep my opinions to myself until we get to the end of our discussion about it.
Keep going. It's it's sort of a pseudo-futuristic. Excuse
me.
Oh, you okay?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just coughing.
Pseudo-futuristic. It's sort of unspecified, set in the future. It's one of those films that's kind of the technology and stuff they use is obviously futuristic, but it's very much feels like sort of present day. I don't really know how to describe it.
In that aspect, it really reminded me a lot of episodes of Black Mirror.
Yes.
How it's very much, it's like not like culturally everything is the exact same.
Yep.
There's just this one big bit of technology that's like totally overhauling everything.
Funny you mentioned Black Mirror because Andrea Riseborough, who plays the lead character Voss, well, one of the two lead characters, Voss, was in Black Mirror.
Was she?
She was.
I've not actually watched an awful lot of Black Mirror.
Her episode is very depressing.
Yeah.
I would not recommend it.
Okay.
It made me sad.
A lot of Black Mirrors, that's kind of the whole thing with Black Mirror. I've only watched a couple of episodes, but they were both pretty sad.
Yeah, this one was particularly sad.
Actually, one of them I think is maybe the only one that has a happy ending. It's that one with the lesbians in the VR heaven thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
That's a good one.
That was very
I
good.
enjoyed that.
This is not a Black Mirror podcast.
No, it's not. Sorry.
Could we do Black Mirror? Do you think that's justified? They're feature length. Some of them are feature length.
Possibly. I don't particularly enjoy Black Mirror.
All right. Okay. Well, never mind. Right. We'll move on. Yes. So pseudo-futuristic. Andrea Riseborough plays Tassia Voss, who's the lead character. She's an assassin of sorts. A sort of contract assassin for this mysterious company. We don't really get a lot of backstory with who they are or who they work for or what their clientele is. But it's... I forget the actor's name who plays her carer, her handler.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Who's brilliant in everything she does, but she's great in this as well. She's a very sort of subtle character in this, but she's great as well. And yeah, she plays this assassin. They have this technology that basically allows her to take over someone else's body. So it's her mind in their body, and then commits the murders using this person's body. So they're free of blame. They can just sneak off and do whatever, while it's this person who they've taken over who usually commits suicide afterwards, or I think it's kind of implied that that's what they're supposed to do at the end of a contract. But they're the ones who take the heat for the killing, which is conceptually is a cool idea.
Yeah.
It's unique. I like that. Appreciate that. And it really, I like the focus on the sort of the character study of Voss and of the other lead character who gets introduced a little bit later. I like that it doesn't focus on the assassinations. Yeah. Because this could so easily have become like a Netflix thriller where it's someone, these assassins take over people's bodies and it's just them going around killing people, and it's just this generic, flat, boring 90-minute Netflix. It would absolutely be on Netflix. That kind of thriller. I like that it explores the sort of her losing her mind a little bit, not really sure who she is as a person anymore. She's been impersonating so many other people, and then with the introduction of I can't remember his first name. Is it Colin Tate? Yeah. Played by Christopher Abbott, who I don't really know, but is really good in this, actually. Yeah. He's a sort of indie actor. She's the next... well, he's not the target, but she's going to take over his body. She's going to take over his body, I should say, and use him to commit the murder of Sean Bean. The boy just can't get a break, can he? And yeah, the two of them, they have this sort of internal power struggle over Tate's body, and I really just like how it focuses on. It's not even like the exploration of like the ethics of using this technology. It's not as I say, like the sort of thriller aspect of them going and committing the murders. It's the sort of the study of these two people competing for their lives and their minds. I don't know. It's very trippy. It's a very trippy film. There's a lot of like psychedelic.
There is. The visuals
moments.
Are great.
The visuals, yeah. The direction's really great as well. Even outside of like the sort of transition visuals when she's going in and out of the hosts, I don't know what you call them. Yeah. It's just shot really beautifully. The shots of like London, I think it is, but all like the building shots and them walking through crowds and things like that. It's beautiful. It's top notch.
It is
top notch.
Yeah.
So yeah, Colin Tate is dating the daughter of Sean Bean's character. What's his name?
I can't remember. I just refer to him as Sean Bean.
Sean Bean's character. And he's a sort of wealthy Elon Musk-esque owner of a big tech conglomerate. And he's the target. So eventually they go. I keep saying he, she because there's so many different characters and they're all the same body and it's very confusing. Yeah. But she, Voss, in Tate's body, kind of gets to know his girlfriend, goes to the work and stuff. There's loads of great shots of like the technology they use at work. It's like sort of AI programming almost. Yeah. They're using people's webcams to track
it's like
products.
Data mining for like computer vision software, I guess.
It's really cool. And sort of just to tie back to what you were saying about The Ring, with the sort of very low budget angle, all the technology and stuff is very, very low budget. It's all like sort of analog dials on the machines. It's sort of very basic headsets with sort of masks. There's no super trippy... Well, there is super trippy visuals. Yeah. There's no like big CGI moments or big machines or anything like that.
Yeah. It's not like Contact. They're going in like a big, giant, massive machine or anything. It's just like it's basically just like an operating table with like a thing that they put on her head.
Yeah, sort of,
which looked really cool. I really like the prop design for that.
Yeah, it's the prop design is gorgeous in this film. But yeah, all the sort of shots at him at work, Tate at work. Yeah, very confusing. And yeah, just showing her sort of slowly losing her grip. I really like it. I really, really like this film. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something just really interesting about just watching it. I can't really describe what it is. It's just really interesting study of what would happen in that case, like someone trying to take over your body. Would your mind fight back? Would it accept it?
Yeah.
But yeah, the target, Mr. Sean Bean, whatever his name is, Mr. Musk, Mr. Musk analogy. Eventually, he goes to a dinner party with his girlfriend and hosted by the dad, and they have this confrontation. And he lays into him. He picks up that fireplace iron and he goes to town in what is a pretty gruesome scene.
Yeah, it's very violent, yeah.
Like, for the most part of this film, for being a Cronenberg film, it's not particularly gory.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments, but it's not excessive. And then this scene comes up, and Tate is like driving the fireplace iron into his mouth and like twisting it,
and the teeth and then
the eyeball as well.
Oh yeah, that I had to look away for that.
It's a lot.
I was definitely expecting like that level of gore in the film, to be honest. There's the famous shot from we've not actually talked about that bit in the film, but like the shot that's on like the posters and like the DVD cover and everything, where she's got, it's like Voss's face, but it's all like stretched and deformed.
It's all messed up.
I saw that and I was like, okay, this is going to be like gruesome and like body horror-y. And then we get most of the way through the film at this point when Sean Bean's being
like good halfway
killed.
Through the film, yeah.
And there's not really been anything.
No,
it's been pretty tame. There's been like a couple of shots with like the part of the process of possessing.
They
have to like plug like an amp into their brain.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a bit kind of.
And there's
gory.
the murder at the start. Blood. The opening scene is
murder. There's quite a lot of blood there, but it's not super graphic.
Not that bad,
there's just a lot of blood.
Yeah.
So like I was kind of like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be then. And then the poker to the eyeball, and I was like, oh god, oh boy, that's whoa. Yeah.
The worst part, I think, for me, is the fact that he lived through this.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a semi-shock reveal in like the next scene. Voss tries to escape the body but can't. That's when Tate kind of starts to take control back over his body.
Yeah.
And he goes on the run. And we're watching the news, or he's watching the news, and we hear the report that he's survived the attack. The daughter doesn't. She gets gunned down, which is
capped in the head.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. She didn't do anything wrong, but well. So the fact that he's survived is just the idea of that, going through that is skeeves me out.
Mm-hmm.
So the sort of latter half of the film very much becomes Tate on the run with Voss inside his head, and he starts out trying to get rid of her. He doesn't really know what to do. The the company, whoever they are, that employ Voss, try to retrieve her and dispose of Tate's body, I guess is a polite way of saying it.
Yeah.
They send agents in, but he kind of retains control and manages to kill him, and then decides he wants to get revenge. And that's the sort of the finale of the film is him using Voss's memories in his head to find her husband and her son and basically go and get revenge on them.
Yeah.
That seems pretty brutal as well, actually, when he finally gets a hold of the husband and takes a meat cleaver to him, gets his fingers and then gets his, just sort of hacks at him. And then the final reveal when the son comes downstairs and stabs Tate, and then he shoots the son, and you're like, holy shit, this is a dark ending.
Yeah.
And it gets even worse when you find out that it's actually the controller who's using her son's body. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's really brutal. Like that when the son gets shot, that's really
it is. Because not a lot of horror films will do that.
Yeah.
Will kill a kid.
Especially American. Well, Cronenberg Canadian, is he not?
Yeah, well, David Cronenberg was Canadian. I don't know. I don't know if Brandenburg.
Yeah.
Brandenburg?
Brandenburg.
I don't know if Brandon Cronenberg was also born in Canada, or
Cronenberg
if
Concertos.
Yeah, the Cronenberg Concertos. Yeah, I don't know if maybe they had like if he was like living in LA or whatever, but yeah.
No, you're right. It's really not something you see very often. But yes, and that kind of rounds off the film. Voss gets out with the brain now that Tate's body's dead, and the controller and her are sort of doing their little session to sort of psychological analysis to make sure that everything's okay. And it is, despite the fact that her husband and son have just been murdered.
Yeah.
And she's gone through all that trauma, and she's just fine with it.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, either she's repressing a lot.
Yeah.
Or she's just a psychopath.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a lot easier to believe, because there are quite a lot of things that I picked up on throughout the film suggesting that she's just, I mean, a complete psychopath in the regard that like she's practicing all of her emotions when she's pretending to be normal, and like obviously her husband and her kid don't know about what she does as a job. She kind of says that she was like away on a business trip or something while she was out committing the murder at the beginning of the film. And she's like reciting these lines to herself to like get the inflection right, just to have a conversation with her family.
Yeah.
It's creepy. But then there's also like, they make comments about at the beginning when she's possessed the woman who's like a
hostess,
like an athlete, I suppose.
No, she's a
hostess. She's a hostess
at the bar, I think.
Oh, okay.
There's
fair
like
enough. For some reason, I thought she was like wearing like a tracksuit.
She is. They're all wearing the same tracksuit.
Oh right.
At the start, she's one of the hostesses at the sort of club where the target is.
Where the target is.
I think.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they make a comment about like, you had a gun. Why did you stab him to death?
Yeah.
And she kind of says like, oh, well, I thought that it would fit the character better. And then we see it again. I feel like we saw that again when she tries to kill Sean Bean.
Yeah.
It's like
she has the gun.
She has a gun. Her job is not to torture him. It's to kill him. And yet she messes with him. She goes in, she like puts the gun on the table and starts to talk to him. And then right when Sean Bean lunges for the gun, that's when she cracks him with the fire poker and starts beating him.
Yeah.
Like, she's a complete sadist.
Oh yeah, she
and
is
like a violent psychopath. Like she's not just like a contract killer who's doing it and she's just detached herself. Like she's having fun with it, which is unsettling.
It is very much so. But I kind of like that.
I liked it as well. Yeah, I think it's like it's fun seeing a character like that who's not just like a one note villain. It's not just like a slasher villain or something.
Yeah.
Like she clearly has personality. Her personality is just violent and deranged.
Yeah. Well, there's like loads of scenes throughout the film where she's sort of remembering the murder that we see at the start of the film. Like she sort of sees herself killing her husband. She sees like the blood and everything everywhere. It's she's an interesting one. Is our Voss.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Andrea Riseborough is amazing in the role.
Very good actress.
And she's
really good
fantastic
performance.
in it.
Yeah.
It's a weird film. I definitely recommend it. It was not at all what I expected, because actually, like you said, seeing I saw the trailer. I didn't see the trailer. Sorry, I saw the poster, and I heard that it was Cronenberg film, and heard that it was good, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a watch. Saw the poster and it's the Voss like face mask all stretched out, and I was like, yeah, okay. I had the exact same thought as you. I was like, this is going to be a super weird body horror Cronenberg nightmare.
Yeah.
And then I watched it and was like, this is a really good film. This is really enjoyable. It's it just kind of it's a very loose horror film.
Yeah.
I would argue it's more like thriller than horror.
Yeah, I actually looked at it because I bought the Blu-ray of this, and I looked at the back of the box, and it refers to it as a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah.
Which I would agree with. It's like a kind of disturbing sci-fi thriller. It's not really like a horror film.
Yeah.
It has elements of it, definitely, but it's not full tilt horror.
Yeah. The first time I watched it, I didn't really consider it. When I watched it again this week, the one thing that I took away from it that really, really scared me was the idea that if this technology did exist, you could be sitting across from someone that isn't actually the person you think it is.
Yeah.
Are you you?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Just, I sat, like, after the credits rolled, I was sitting there like, yeah, that's a little twinge of existential dread right there.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of creeped me out a little bit, I won't lie. So whilst the film itself doesn't really focus too much on that aspect of the horror, there's still notes of it there, and it kind of lingers a little bit afterwards. So, not really much more to say on it. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
I also really enjoyed it.
Good.
I loved it.
Glad. I've been pestering you for a while to watch it.
You have, and I can see why, because it is really very, very interesting and very well made and really solid watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What moment in the film grossed you out the most? Would it be the eye pop?
It probably, yeah. I think it was probably the or just like a combination of the eye and the teeth.
Yeah.
There is this scene kind of after it's established that they're both kind of fighting for control of Tate's body. There's a scene where it's like, it's just like a brief glimpse and it's very blurry visuals where it's like the two of them, their heads are like joined together and they like pull apart and they like stretch and like rip.
Yeah.
And you just get, it's a very brief shot and it's not in focus and you don't really see anything too graphic, but that was quite a gross visual.
Yeah, I would agree. For me, it was the scene where just before that, where Tate is fighting back after the agent has come and plugged him in.
Yeah.
Before the agent gets killed, he kind of tries to fight for Voss to get back in control of the body, and there is another sort of one of those segments of the two of them fighting for control, and he, in his mind, kind of comes and lies on top of her in bed and holds her head.
Oh, yeah.
And then her head like pops, and it's just like, it's like the skull just cracks and disappears.
Yeah.
And he like sort of pops it like a balloon. I don't know why, but that made me flinch and just sent a shiver down my spine.
Yeah.
It really just eked me out.
Yeah. I quite like that shot.
Did you?
I like the effect because like it's not
it's
like
really
gory.
cool.
It's not graphic.
Yeah.
It's like there's something I found kind of goofy about it, which is what I really
like.
liked.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like so obviously not trying to look like a real head being crushed.
Yeah.
And that I liked about it. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Still leaked me out.
You know what's something else that I liked about this film? And nobody take this too much out of context, but something that I always respect a lot in a horror film is when a film is willing to show male nudity. Because so many films are gonna like, oh, we're just gonna put like female nudity.
Tits everywhere.
Yeah, loads of tits. Loads of like bums, loads of sex, everything. No dick. No pipe. We're not showing anything. And there's a good bit of that in here. And there's like a real like feeling of like I don't know if this is necessarily an intentional thing, and it's not something that I have experienced a lot, but I can see why people would relate it to like a feeling of gender dysmorphia. There's the scene when Tate and his fiance are having sex, and it kind of, I don't know if it just like pans down and then pans back up, and it's Andrea Riseborough now.
Oh yeah.
And then the camera pans down and she has a penis.
Yeah.
And it's like that, like their brains and their bodies are like blurring together, I thought worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need to have the stones to show some male nudity every now and again.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like that about it.
You like the dicks.
I did. You know what? I like the dicks. I like the fact that they show dicks every so often.
No, I agree, actually, yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it there's a difference between like a slasher that shows like exaggerated sex scenes and you know, shirts ripping off and females getting the tops off and things like that.
Yeah.
And where it's done in a film like this, where it just adds like a level of realism to it.
Yeah.
Like when Tate's at his work and they show he's looking through all the webcams and there's a couple having sex. And it just feels like real. It feels realistic that if he was watching people through their webcams, that would probably come up.
Yeah.
And you would probably see that. And yeah, like you said, with the sort of weird transition-y scenes between Voss and Tate, that scene with Andrea Riseborough, it just sort of them morphing together works really well in the context of the film. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. More dicks in film.
More dicks in film. Like I like that a film is willing to do that.
Don't Look Now. Don't Look Now. They always hid.
Yeah.
Sutherland's pee-pee.
Didn't see any of Sutherland's penis. You got a lot of shots of his ass.
Lot of bare ass.
Yeah.
A lot of bare ass.
To be fair, you don't get an awful lot of female nudity below the belt. There's not an awful lot of graphic shots of vaginas in films.
That's true.
Not that I can think of. So I suppose it's not necessarily uneven, but like so many films are willing to show boobs.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to show it boobs, and they're not willing to show anything else. So like it's, I don't know, it feels uneven, and I like a film that's willing to just have some equal opportunity nudity.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the last thing we'll say on that film.
That's the last thing we'll say on that film. So we give it rankings. We need to give it rankings.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah. I gave this also a 4.
Cool.
Really great concept, really great visuals, some great performances from some of the actors. The two main actors specifically playing Voss and Tate. Really great watch. I love it. I love a good sci-fi film.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 as well.
Yeah,
for most of the same reasons. Very fun discussion with me.
Yeah,
of the exact same opinion. But no, it's the reason I didn't give it any higher than that is probably because again, same as Ring, it's not that scary. Despite it being a sort of pseudo horror film, it isn't really that scary at all, I would argue. It's got the moments of like gore and sort of creepiness with the sort of abstract transition-y scenes, but it's not really, I wouldn't label it as scary at all, really. So that's maybe on me for picking a not particularly scary horror film, but it's still enjoyable.
I think pretty upsetting in a lot of places.
It is, it is upsetting. But yeah, there we go. Technology.
Technology.
For good and for bad. I mean, in this case, it was all for bad.
It was pretty much all for bad.
Yeah. We should have contrasted a bit more.
We could have done. I mean, what are some horror films where technology is used for good? I can't think of any.
I don't think there is any.
Aliens.
Aliens.
She gets in the thing, the suit, and she punches.
That's good, actually.
Punches out the airlock.
Then,
that's using technology for good.
Arguably, where Alien is a horror film, Aliens is an action film.
Oh yeah, I would say Aliens isn't a horror film. That's maybe a bit of a controversial opinion. It's also not better than Alien, and I do not know why everyone keeps saying that. I don't know what everyone is smoking when they keep saying that Aliens is a better film than Alien. It's not. It's not a bad film. It's a good film, but it's not better than Alien.
This is a discussion for another time.
This is a discussion for another time.
We can do an Alien.
We can have
episode.
a proper Alien versus Aliens episode at some point, but no.
Yes. Well, there we go. That was technology. We had Ring and we had Possessor. Both pretty good films. Definitely would recommend watching them both if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Next week, we have the theme of lakes. Can you tell that I just plugged some random word generator things?
Word generator, yeah.
But I thought that fit because there's quite a lot of lakey films set by lakes in lakes. So I'm curious to see what you have for us next week.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that I have 3 films in my head because actually just yesterday I was chatting with some friends and one of them brought up one of these films which has the word lake in the title, and then another one of my friends thought they were talking about a different film which has lake in the title, and then I said, no, you're thinking of this one, and I was also thinking of a completely different film that has lake in the title. So there are 3 that I have in my head, and I'm convinced that you've picked one of them, and I'm hoping we're picking different ones that all have lakes in them.
Okay.
I have chosen Lake Placid.
Okay.
The horror comedy from 1999, the kind of creature feature about the giant crocodile.
Is that the one with Ice Cube?
No, that you're thinking of Anaconda.
Is that Anaconda?
That has Ice Cube.
Okay.
Or is that Ice-T? No, it's Ice Cube. No, it's Ice Cube that's in Anaconda and Jennifer Lopez.
Yes.
No,
yeah.
this
That's what
has
I'm thinking of.
it has Betty White.
Oh, it's the one with Betty White.
This is the one with Betty White.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
I'm excited. I've not seen this before, but I have heard mixed good reviews. Like, I think good reviews in the sense that it's probably a good time, but it's not necessarily an amazing film, which I think is fun.
Giant killer crocs. What's not to love?
I need to pick some more cheese. I've not picked many like cheesy options so far.
Go.
So going for something that's a bit goofier, a bit sillier. I'm expecting not to be great.
Well, I'm gonna bring the mood right down, and I'm gonna pick something that is thoroughly bleak watch. One that I watched not too long ago, but one that I'd never heard of before then. It came up recommended to me on Shudder, and I was so impressed with it. Lake Mungo. Okay.
That is one of the ones that was one of the other 2 that I thought you might have picked.
The Australian mockumentary, horror mockumentary, found footage film. I remember it being pretty unsettling. I remember it being pretty unique in the way that it tells its plot. So yeah, I'm keen to give it another watch. I'm keen to see what you think as well.
I'm interested to see what I think. That's great. I've not seen either of those.
Yeah.
So,
excellent. That's
good.
Okay. I've only seen one of them. I've not seen Lake Placid, so that's fine. I've got going in.
Yeah.
We'll need to find ones that you've seen that I've not. Yeah. Excellent. Right. Well, thank you for joining us once again on our horror double bill this Friday evening.
Yeah.
Friday night.
I don't know.
We've gone from evening into night.
Yep. We have.
We're doing so well. We're doing so well today.
We're nailing this.
Yeah. We'll see you next week for
smash that like button. Subscribe, comment, give us your firstborn son. I don't know.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
More chaotic madness. See ya.